Shalom and welcome to part 4 of Appointed Times in the Search for the True Sabbath. I can't tell you how excited I am to bring this teaching and understanding to you. And I say again, this teaching is not mine, it is my Father's. He wants everyone who will to come and eat and drink. Stop looking to the right and to the left and to one another and bickering. Let's look up, look to Him, and let all of us come together under one teacher, one lawgiver, and one sign. By the way, this is the true meaning of eating the unleavened bread. We are going to start with how to know the head of the year, the first month. It is imperative that we know how to do this so that we are able to start our count properly to attend His appointed times, His mo'adim, throughout the year. All right, first I need to do something though, and that is prove to you that you do not already know how to do this. I know, you think you already do know how to do this, but you don't. And look, I too am Ephraim, and we are as stubborn and hard-headed as mules. We need to become as the tamed ox that our Father is leading towards the oat, the olive tall. When I stopped thinking I had all the answers and sought the voice of Yahweh alone, the answers began to come. This is what I am sharing with you now. Okay, so close your eyes. That's right, close your eyes. Take a few seconds to clear your mind. Take a good, long, deep breath. Now, keeping your eyes closed, imagine yourself in the woods. It is about 2 years from the present time and a lot has happened. You are with a small group of people who you don't know that well, but they are like-minded believers. All of you are gathered for refuge, but you are out in the wilderness. You've all been driven there for safety. You've been without electricity and communication for about 4 months now, although you don't really know how long it's been because of all the stress of survival. All you know is it is finally starting to warm up again, the grass is just beginning to turn green, and thank heavens because it has been a really long, tough, cold winter. But Yahuwah has been your refuge and your strength. Now, your eyes are still closed and you are considering your situation. Here is my question. When is the first day of the month? The new year, so that you can keep the Passover. And when is the seventh day Sabbath, so you can keep it? Have you even been able to keep the Sabbath for the past months? You have no iPhone. You have no calendar. You have no electricity. You have no communications, and you have no papers. What are you going to do, and how are you going to know? Now, I ask you, do you really know how to tell the head of the year? All right, open your eyes now. You are going to stop now taking counsel from one another and start taking counsel from your Creator and King. He has already given us the covenant to look at in the heavens. All we need to do is look to Him and what He has given to us. If you haven't watched part 2 or 3 yet, you may want to go and do that now because I'm going to be using some of what I shared in that part, in this part. The head of the year. The head of the year is in the springtime. We all know that much, don't we? We know this because of the Exodus, the Passover, and the words of Yahweh to Moshe and Aaron and to all of us. From the book of Names, Exodus, we read, "On the 10th day of this month, each one of them is to take for himself a lamb, according to the house of his father, a lamb for a household." Exodus 12:3. We see here in the beginning is the instructions for keeping the Passover appointment. And when we back up 2 verses, we will see that Yahuwah Himself tells Moshe and Aaron very plainly. And Yahuwah spoke to Moshe and Aaron in the land of Mitzrayim, saying, "This month is the beginning of months for you. It is the first month of the year for you." Exodus chapter 12, verses 1 and 2. There it is, very plain language. In part 3, we looked at the word Chodesh. I want you to see this verse in Hebrew. It is, Ha-Chodesh Hazah Lakom, Ra'osh Chodeshim, Rishon Hua Lakom, La-Chodeshi Ha-Shaneh. Hazeh is the word this, and Ha-Chodesh is the new moon, the renewal, the month. Lakom is saying, unto you. Ra'osh is the head or first. Chodeshim, you should know by now, it is new moons, renewals, or months. It is the plural with the im ending. Rishon is saying first of others. Hua is saying it is or it exists. Lakom, again, is unto you. La Chodeshi is saying new moons of, renewals of, months of. Ha Shene is saying the cycle or the year. Okay, there should really not be any argument or disagreement that can be brought about what Yahuwah is saying here about when the year begins and the month of Passover is, the month of the Exodus, the head of the year. All ancient cultures were on a lunar monthly cycle. Their months were determined by the moon. There is no question about this. You can research this out on your own and see. Every 29 or 30 days, the moon will cross paths with the sun, and both the sun and the moon will be in a new or entering a new star constellation. This is the marker for a new month. It is just like the hands on a clock. We know that month 1 is the month of Passover, and it is in the springtime. Our question now is, which springtime month is it? Springtime lasts for more than 30 days, right? We start seeing signs of spring in March in the northern areas, and spring for the northern areas runs through March and April on the Gregorian calendar system. But what about our scattered brothers and sisters of Israel who were scattered to the southern areas? Do you think that our Father is not their Father also? And do you not think He is speaking to all of His children everywhere He has scattered them? They are not having spring when we are having spring, so we need to begin to see this renewal a little differently now. Let's open our minds. His Moedim are proclaimed by the heavens, the one thing that is seen by all people and the one thing that cannot be touched by mankind. So, we in the northern areas know Passover is coming when things begin to warm up and green up and arguments begin on when the new year is. But there is a better way than looking at the earth. We must look to the heavens. Do you know why there is so much confusion and disagreement? Because of this. And because of this. Neither of which our Father gave us to know His appointed times. I guarantee you that Moshe and Aaron and the children of Israel did not have a sheaf of barley to offer on the 16th day of the first month. I know also that for 42 years following the Exodus from Egypt, they did not have a sheaf of barley to offer on the 16th day of the first month. This is precisely why our Father Yahuwah said, "When you come into the land which I give you and shall reap its harvest, then you shall bring a sheaf of the first fruits of your harvest to the priest." Leviticus 23:10. But these days we tear each other apart over the barley harvest. Does this make any sense to you? I don't know if our father Abraham or Moshe would laugh or cry. For 42 years, all Israel was able to know when to hold and keep the Passover and unleavened bread without Abib barley. I will say that again. For 42 years, all Israel was able to know when to hold and keep the Passover and unleavened bread without Abib barley. There are so many issues with using the earth to set the appointed times for the year, like what if there is a 3-year drought? All of this notwithstanding the truth that Father Yahuwah gave us the sun, moon, and stars for this. It is simply illogical. I do not wish to offend anyone. I used to follow this too before I began looking to my Father only for counsel. We do not use barley to determine the head of the year. What do we use? We use the sun, moon, and stars that were given for signs, appointed times, days, and years, and particularly the moon. Psalm 104:19 tells us plainly, He made the moon for appointed times. Now, the other item that causes confusion is this, the Julian calendar, and we all know that ancient Israel did not have this calendar with its monthly and weekly cycle. Do you know the primary purpose of this calendar? To remove the calendar system from a lunar reckoning. Let that sink in for a moment. And for merchandise trade and taxes too, of course. So now what do we have? We have months beginning on a 25-day-old moon or a 27-day-old moon, and we have new moons in the middle of months and so on. So that now the month of Passover has to be said March or April. Why? Why is it March or April? It can only be one of them, and the only reason that there are now two choices is because of the implementation of the Julian calendar, which removed us from the lunar monthly reckoning system. So how does a new month begin according to the heavens? A new month occurs when the sun and moon cross paths as they exit one constellation and enter into another constellation together. This results in a conjunction of the two lights. See the sun and the moon together here? Here is what they look like. This is month 1. See the sun and the moon together. They are leaving Pisces and entering into Aries. This is month 2. The sun and the new moon together are leaving Aries and entering Taurus. This is month 3. The sun and the moon together are leaving Taurus, and so forth and so on, until their prescribed yearly circuit is complete and it starts over again at month 1 in the month of Passover. Please take a note, we cannot literally see the constellation the sun is in. I am going to teach you how you can know what constellation the sun is in, even though you cannot see the constellation itself, so don't go anywhere. Since we have a new month when the sun and the moon cross paths as they enter into a new constellation, which one is the Rosh Chodesh, the head month? It is the month of the Lamb, Aries. And here is how this is true. I will go through the proofs. Our first witness is the Jewish historian Josephus. In Book 3 of the Antiquities of the Jews, he writes, "In the month Xanthicus, which is called by us Nisan, is the beginning of our year, on the 14th day of the lunar month, when the sun is in Aries. For in this month it was that we were delivered from the bondage under the Egyptians. The law ordained that we should every year slay that sacrifice which I before told you we slew when we came out of Egypt, and which was called the Passover." There's his testimony, plain and simple. I challenge each and every one of you to do some research in this area on your own. Research the month Xanthicus. It is the name of the month of April to the Macedonians. Xanthicus, the name of a month which occurs in 2 Maccabees. It corresponds to Nisan or April of the Jewish calendar. Here is another commentary on this subject from Kabziel, Red Heifer, by William Smith. He writes, "As the Jews still retain the names Nisan, it may appear at first sight needless to do more than refer the reader to a modern almanac, and this would have been the case if it were not evident that the modern Nisan does not correspond to the ancient one. That's interesting, isn't it? At present, Nisan answers to March, but in early times it coincided with April for the barley harvest, the first fruits of which were to be presented on the 15th of that month. Now make note, that's not correct. Does not take place even in the warm district about Jericho until the middle of April, and in the upland districts not before the end of that month. To the same effect, Josephus synchronizes Nisan with the Egyptian month Parmuth, which commenced on the 27th of March, and with the Macedonian Xanthicus, which answers generally to the early part of April, though considerable variation occurs in the local calendars as to its place. He further informs us that the Passover took place when the sun was in Aries, which it does not enter until the end of March. In doing some research on the Egyptian month Parmuth, here is what I found. Parmudi is also known as Barmuda. It is the 8th month of the Coptic calendar. It lies between April 9th and May 8th of the Gregorian calendar. Parmudi was also the 4th month of the season of Proyet, which means growth and emergence in the ancient Egypt, when the Nile floods recede and the crops start to grow again. The Coptic name Parmudi derives from the Egyptian word Renun Nutet. Here is what I found from Wikipedia when doing research on these calendars. The Coptic calendar, Parmudi 1, corresponds to the Julian calendar, March 27th, and both of these correspond to the Gregorian calendar, April the 9th. What is going on here, right? See, the heavens have not changed, only man's calendar has changed. Our second witness is our Israelite ancestors. As we learned in Part 2, the constellation Aries was known to our Israelite ancestors as Telah, which means lamb. Surely the logic does not escape us. The sign of the lamb gives us the month in which the Passover was accomplished. The lamb, Yahusha, came, and the month in which we are to keep the memorial of not only our being brought and delivered out of Egypt, but the time in which the Moshiach accomplished the taking back and the establishment of his kingdom. Our third witness is the time of planting, renewal, and vernal equinox from time immemorial. In ancient history, springtime was in Aries, and it was literally brought in by the constellation Aries. The first point of Aries is the location of the vernal equinox and is named for the constellation of Aries. It is one of the 2 points on the celestial sphere at which the celestial equator meets the ecliptic plane, the other being the first point of Libra, located exactly 180 degrees from it. Over its year-long journey through the constellations, the Sun crosses the celestial equator from south to north at the first point of Aries, and from north to south at the first point of Libra. The first point of Aries is considered to be the celestial prime meridian from which right ascensions are calculated. I will go into greater detail about the calendar changes that began with Julius Caesar in 45 BC in a later video, and the fact that there is no precession of the equinox, and I will prove it to you. For now, our last witness for this video is the constellation Virgo. There is only one time each year when the constellation Virgo, or if you remember Betula, has all of the following properties in the night sky. She is fully risen above the horizon at the east after sunset so that she can be easily seen. She has a full moon, either in conjunction, or very nearby her first fruit offering in her hand, as she is fully visible. The full moon is indicating it is the 15th day of a particular month. She has her first fruit offering in her hand, and guess what? This only occurs when the sun is in Aries, the first month of the year. Her first fruit offering is noted by the star Spica, which in Hebrew is Zemak. Now, I did not have a chance to cover the star Spica and its Hebrew interpretation during our Hebrew words video, so let's do that now. The Hebrew word for this star Spica is Zemak. Zemak is spelled using a tzadeh, a mem, and a chet. The 2-letter parent root is mem, chet, making the word mach. It is the picture of water in a tent wall. Combined, the meaning becomes liquid inside. All living things have liquid inside, whether we are talking about plants, animals, or mankind. But when the tzadeh is added, this word receives special meaning. The tzadeh is a picture of a path that ends in a dead end, and we can only go right or left. We must make a decision to choose life, which is the path of Torah, or we can choose death, the knowledge of good and evil. When the tzadeh is added to mach, we get zemak. We go from simply having liquid inside to actually having a bud to bear fruit. Isn't that awesome? So Betula has her grain offering in her hand, and it is the first fruit offering for the Feast of First Fruits on the 16th day of the first month, also known as the morrow after the Sabbath. Our Mashiach, Yahusha, is the first of the first fruits, just as Isaiah prophesied. In that day the righteous branch, Zemak, of Yahuwah shall be splendid and esteemed. This is the star Spica. Getting back to the witness of the heavens now, the only time during the year we can see a completely risen Betula in the east with a full moon at the star Spica is during the month of Passover, on that night which ushers in the week of unleavened bread. What you see here is what our Israelite ancestors saw as they walked east out of Egypt. So it is the Lamb and the bride who together testify that it is the first month of the year and the month of Passover. Alright, changing direction now, I am going to do my very best to show you exactly how to determine the month of Passover using nothing but the heavens. We are back in the wilderness now with nothing to use except what Yahuwah gave us in the beginning. The first thing you need to know is that the heavens move from east to west. This includes the sun, the moon, and the stars. So as you observe the heavens on different nights, you will notice the changes in a westerly direction, except for what you see in the moon, and we'll cover that in the video part 5. So we are outside looking up at the heavens while facing south, and although our primary objective is to keep up with Aries, the Lamb, I first pick up Orion when I am looking up because it is so easy to see and recognize. Once I find Orion, then I know where to look for Aries to try and find it. I want you to look here at the movement of these constellations while focusing on Orion for now. Each time you see a change in a westerly direction, what you are seeing is a picture of the night sky a month later, but at the same hour of the night. Here we have the night sky in January, February, March, then April. See how the constellations move across the sky from east to west, until if we kept going, eventually even Orion would disappear below the horizon. When you do this type of consistent, regularly observance, you will notice that there is a pretty big change when going from March, the 12th Hebrew month, to April, the 1st Hebrew month, when observing each time at the same time of evening. March, April, March, April. So that is the motion of the heavens that you will see. Now let's go over this together some more. Here is January, and there is Orion, Taurus, Pleiades, and Aries. Aries is the one we're watching, but Orion we are using for our orientation. With the bottom of the screen being near the western horizon, you can see how far away Aries is from the horizon in January around 9:30 at night. We know we have a couple more moons before Passover. And if we could actually see the constellations while the sun is still up, you can see that yes, in fact, the sun is leaving Sagittarius and entering Capricorn. Next new moon, the moon of the Gregorian calendar February, we are observing again around 9:30 p.m. We look for and find Orion and then do our westerly identification of Taurus, Pleiades, and then the Lamb. Where is the Lamb now in relation to the western horizon? Well, it's much closer, but we still see Pisces. This tells us we still have more time. If we can see a constellation at evening time and early night time, the sun is not near it, because if it were, we would not be able to see the constellation. See this here? This is the same month, February, only earlier in the day, but before sunset. The sun is moving from Capricorn now and into Aquarius. Aquarius being the constellation just prior to Pisces. Okay, it's been 60 days and 2 moons later now from where we started this exercise. It is the moon of the Gregorian month of March. We find our markers Orion, Taurus, Pleiades, and try to find Aries. Aries is now fading, if we can even see it at all. See how much closer Aries is to the western horizon? We see Pisces here on Stellarium, but I can guarantee you that you will not be able to see it in reality. Here is a closer look, and you can see that there are literally sun rays shining on Pisces. We may not even be able to distinguish or make out Pleiades, and this is key. As Aries and Pleiades fade after sunset, we know that the next new moon will be the Rosh Chodesh, the head month of the year. Here is an imaginary boundary of sunlight after sunset, and you can see why it is we cannot see Aries and Pleiades, even though the sun is not literally in them. Here is the same day, but at 6:30 p.m. I want you to see where the sun is. It is entering Pisces at the moon of the Gregorian month of March. It is the 12th Hebrew month and the last moon of the last year. Remember where our first point of Aries was? We are not there yet, but the next new moon will be. Here we are. It is the next new moon in the Gregorian month of April. The sun is entering the Lamb. We cannot see Taurus anymore because of the rays of the sunlight at or after sunset. Forget seeing Pleiades at all, and we now know that it is the Rosh Chodesh, the very one Yahweh told Moshe and Aaron about in Exodus 12. For confirmation, we can continue observing later at night and looking east. We should see Virgo there, fully rising. This picture is at 9:30 at night. Spica is there and we can see it. So all of the conditions are now met to know it is the month of Passover. What we have gone over in this video may seem like it is pretty easy, and it kind of is, but not without practice and study. When you first begin trying and learning, you will become frustrated because nothing looks like it did here in the video. Why? Well, because you have no lines or labels in the night sky. You are going to have to work at it. Remember when you were little and you were having to learn how to tell time? Well, this is just like that. You have to learn, and it takes time and it takes commitment. Consider all the time and commitment that we spend learning the beast system of telling time. Isn't it worth it to us to spend at least this much time on learning the ways our Father wants us to tell time? So don't give up and use the technology we have available while we can. Just to learn, anyway. I use timeanddate.com, Stellarium, handheld sky maps, and Star Chart for iPhone, just to name a few. I first go out and look to see if I can do it on my own. When I get stumped, I go back to the software programs or maps. Eventually, you will not need them anymore at all. And always believe your own eyes when what you see in the software is different from what the sky looks like. If you are concerned about doing this where you live and not from Palestine, listen. One day we will all be back home, but we are not there yet. We must work with where Father has us and with what He gives us right where we are. He knows all things, and He certainly knows this. As always, contact me if you have any questions. Please leave comments too if you like. Now, any vulgar or mean-spirited comments I will delete and ignore. We have zero time for that. Part 5 will be all about the moon. Please join me next time. Shalom, and happy Passover and Unleavened Bread 2016.